1st of November 2023. That is, Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, Kenya Primary School Education Assessment is done between 30th and 1st of November. 2, KCSE will run 30th October to 1st November. Yes, KCSE practicals and optional papers, they are starting on Thursday 19. They started on Thursday 19 October 2023. It will also run all the way to, there will be exams on 23rd October to 3rd November. We will also have KCSE theory. It will run from 1st November to 24th November. That is in brief the timetable. It doesn't give a lot of details. On the candidature of students, Madam Speaker, it is indicated that we have given a big list on the increments of students. The total number of students in KCSE this year is, the total candidature is 905. KCPE, the figure is there, it's a lot. But the total candidature, Madam Speaker, for 2023 candidates is 3 million. That is for KEPSEA, for KCPE, and for KCSE and others. It is 3,606,972,000. This is an increase of 8.6% from the previous exam. Why the candidature and why this is actually for members to note.
Honorable Meli.
Yes.
Chair, I noticed that you have quite a big document.
Yes, it's a big document.
Is it possible for you to summarize and then you table it so that other people who want to go through all the details can go through? If you can just highlight the issues as raised in the statement, and then you bring it to the table so that whoever wants to read all the details then can pick from there, including the Deputy Leader of Minority.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well guided. I will actually summarize. But the issue is actually very, very important for members to understand, because I'll be skimming through some of the issues. I will not be going to the details, but I wanted to pinpoint some of the pertinent areas which members had a lot of concern. Madam Speaker, when you look at identification and distribution of centers or containers and the mapping of examination centers, this was actually something that was quite raised here. And it's an issue that is, I want to really emphasize, is that the Ministry of Education and NEC have been working on the strategies to eliminate early exposure. Madam Speaker, early exposure of the second session of examination paper. One of the key strategies to implement with effect from 2023 is the collection of examination papers twice a day for KCSE examination. This will ensure that no candidate has access to examination prior to the set time. Madam Speaker, this is actually the reason why the ministry actually went ahead and introduced the collection of examination committee. We found out that most exam cheating and malpractices takes place on the second paper, because this paper goes to the school early, it gets exposed early, and that is why that is the real issue. And I think the ministry is trying to treat that particular malpractice. On the same note, therefore, to allay the fears raised by the honorable members, the ministry said that to this end, stakeholders engagement forums on mapping of examination centers were convened as follows. I don't want to go into the details, but I want to note that to consolidate meetings, I want to go to the area where the examination council increased. Madam Speaker, the examination council actually went ahead and increased the number of containers from 482 to 506. This is to ensure that not every sub-county now, I think we have about 290 constituencies, but the number of examination containers were increased from that number to increase so that schools can have easy access to the picking point. Madam Speaker, you remember that before 2016, police stations used to be the centers of collecting exams. But it was realized that it was from those police centers that exams were leaked and a lot of malpractices took place. During the Matiang'i reforms, it was decided that all exams be stored in containers where the sub-county director of education has a different key, and then the deputy county commissioner or assistant county commissioner has another key, so that no one can access the container because of the double locking system. Madam Speaker,
What is out of order, Honorable Timothy Toroitich, Marakwet West? Is anything out of order?
None.
So you may withdraw your intervention.
Yes.
Please proceed, Chairman.
Yes. Madam Speaker, following the various engagements, NEC mapped out all examination centers to the nearest distribution center to avert delays at the start of the second examination session. During mapping or alignment of KPSEA, KCSE, and KCPE examination centers was categorized as follows. That is now the categorization to avoid lateness. And Madam Speaker, papers have been reduced to 2. It will be done in the morning and in the afternoon when the other one has been redone. The alignment is as follows.
What is out of order, Honorable Mary Emasi?
Madam Speaker, one of my sub-counties does not have a container. They are collecting exams from the neighboring sub-county, which is Teso Central. Teso South does not have an exam container. And I've gone up to the ministry, and nothing has been done. So, Honorable Chair, that is out of order to say that all the sub-counties have containers. That should be addressed.
Well, I would have asked you to wait until he finishes. Maybe it is among the ones that he will read last. So, Honorable Chair, you may want, if it is not there, then you may need to respond to the Honorable Member for Teso.
Kindly, Madam Speaker.
Please finalize.
Madam Speaker, you know the document is quite huge, and I want to tell the Honorable Member for Teso South, because she has, I want to say that she has a lot of information about our sub-county, but there are new containers that have been moved across. Let her wait, and then she will actually ask the question after. And this statement, Madam Speaker, is a statement from the CS. You will actually interrogate it after I've laid it on the floor so that you can actually ask questions. Madam Speaker, on the alignment of examination centers to distribution centers that are nearer and within their sub-counties. That is one. Number 2, alignment of examination centers to distribution points and within their sub-counties, but within their county. In this category, the key consideration was security, terrain, and distance. Madam Speaker, counties where examination centers were realigned due to security-related issues include West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, Garissa, Wajir, and Mandera. In Soy sub-county, some centers were realigned to Tarbo and Moiben because of the distance and the terrain. Only centers that were over 20 kilometers from the current container were realigned. The other issue is alignment of examination centers to distribution points that are nearer but not within their counties. The other one is installation of new distribution centers or containers, a total of 82 additional containers for new sub-counties and issues of terrain, distance, and security. Madam Speaker, the other issue that was also raised, and we have the list here among the members. I'll not go through it. I will actually table it so that members will check on it. The other issue that was also raised was the preparation of facilities for storage of 2023 national examination materials. Madam Speaker, this one is actually very detailed to show that how the exams move all the way from the printing, all the way to the national warehouse in Nairobi, to the regional distribution centers, and all the way to the sub-counties, and all the way to the containers within the various sub-counties, and even within the various divisions. So this one is quite enumerated. It is very clear, and it has actually shown that they have increased the distribution centers from actually 5 to 576. So they have increased this year by almost 82 new containers. Madam Speaker, the provision of containers in some of the sub-counties was based on the following. The new areas, that one, creation of new sub-counties that have been gazetted, geographical vastness, 3, rugged terrain, that is hilly and mountainous and vast areas, 4, potential above average rains. You know, this is the time when we have rains during this particular region. It also showed that areas with a lot of rains and accessibility also actually were considered when giving out the containers. Madam Speaker, I want to note, and I wish that you allow me to to read on this. Examinations for Kabedo, South, Hor, Baragoi are airlifted from Nairobi directly into the respective containers due to the security concerns anticipated. From the container, the schools served are within reasonable distance and do not need further airlift. For example, Kabedo Secondary School is 1.2 kilometers away from the nearest container. The examination papers for Chalbi, North Hor, and Wajir North are transported by road to Marsabit and then airlifted from there to individual containers, also due to anticipated insecurity issues in Marsabit. The containers installed are reasonable distance from the schools. Madam Speaker, it is also noted that the examination papers for the whole of Wajir North, Wajir County, are airlifted first by the fixed-wing aircraft to Wajir Airport, Elwak Airstrip, then airlifted by helicopters to Div, Korov, Karar, Kitulo, and Benane, and also on account of anticipated security challenges on the ground. Madam Speaker, also, finally, the examination papers for the whole of Mandera County are flown into Mandera and Takaba airstrips, and then are lifted by helicopters onto the Lafay, Ramu, Banisa, and Akaba containers, also as mitigation against anticipated security challenges in those particular areas. Madam Speaker, the examination papers for lower stretches of Garissa County are transported by road up to Garissa town, and then they are lifted to the containers of Ulugo, Bado, Gamagia, and Fafi, which are adequate for the schools to collect in the area. Madam Speaker, the dispatch of materials. Madam Speaker, in order to mitigate the challenges experienced in a county, the sub-county directors of education have been key in identifying and bringing to the attention of NEC those counties with whose challenges and NEC has ensured the installation of extra containers in areas where delivery of examinations posed a great challenge. Madam Speaker, on dispatch of materials, I just want to highlight that the dispatch of the 2023 KEPSEA KCSE materials are concluded on 15th of October 2023, and also included the dispatch for the orals and oral material for KCSE. The deployment of field officers to be involved in field administration of national examinations. This is quite important for members to note that yesterday it was alleged that it is the head teachers who are in charge of exams. Yes, they are center managers, but the supervisors and the invigilators are the authorized Kenya National Examination officers who are in charge of those particular centers. But the administration of the center is actually by the head teacher. Madam Speaker, I also want to note that the deployment we have statistics here showing the category of supervisors. We have 19,000 for KCAPE, 10,000 for KCSE, 1,477, and the total number of supervisors is 30,000. All these are actually staff for the administration of the exam. So members, I think that one is well, and you'll actually check in the document. On the other issue, Madam Speaker, NEC has engaged with the Teacher Service Commission, especially on the other personnel. We have security. I want to list the number of personnel involved in this, Madam Speaker, for members to note. We have supervisors, we have invigilators, we have center managers who are actually principals and head teachers of schools. We also have, the total number of teachers are 294,983 who will man these exams. On security officers, we have almost 57,000 police officers. We have drivers, 7,029. We also have sub-county directors of education, deputy or assistant county commissioners, all the way to county police commanders, sub-county police commanders, TSC county directors, regional police commanders, and all those particular officers. It will be actually a multi-agency team running the examinations. Madam Speaker, The other issue that I also want to bring to the attention of members is briefing and sensitization of field officers, which is actually a routine in exams across the country. Having been a teacher myself, this is actually something that is done every other time from the national level, the regional level, to the sub-county, and all the way to the zonal level. This has been done, and it was done beginning on 2nd to 6th October. All the briefs were undertaken. Monitoring to ensure smooth administration of quality assurance, and I think these are actually officers who move across schools, counties, sub-counties, and even zonals to ensure that the examination process is done. And here we have a list and agencies engaged in the monitoring and monitoring of national examinations. The officers listed here are 1,765, what we call the roving officers. Roving officers, these are officers that move across to find out everything is moving well. Preparedness for marking of examinations. Madam Speaker, I also want to note that the examiners were trained. About 7,512 examiners were trained in 2023. And in this regard, the data for trained examiners and the rest of the examiners on database has been forwarded to TSC for vetting and in readiness for the engagement. This was very important, especially during our report, Madam Speaker, which we lay on this House. We actually directed the Ministry of Education to ensure that every staff, every examiner has to be vetted on issues of morality, on issues of integrity, on issues of ethics, so that actually they give the right marks. And I want to thank them because they have done as directed by the committee. On marking of KCPE and KCSE examinations, NEC will set 18 marking centers for KCPE and increase the KCSE marking centers from 35 to 40 in 2023, so as to decongest the centers during the marking and also to cater for the increase in the number of examiners due to increased candidature. This was also an advice that we had, and I think this is very important because most of the centers were congested. Most of the examiners marked for long hours. They were strained. They were actually demoted. They had actually a lot of issues, and that's why the centers were increased. Challenges of the way they are going to handle what we call the challenge of the projected El Nino. I just want to note the Kenya National Examination Ministry have noted that there would be challenge in, they have spotted 11 areas which they might have flooding and hotspots. Heavy rains, they have also done that. So they have actually given the various areas of Nyakach, Nyando, we have Nzoia and other areas of Busia. Heavy continuous rainfall, they have also identified Lake Victoria Basin. They have also West Pokot, Vihiga and other areas. Flash floods in Turkana, Lodwar and other areas. Landslides in West Pokot, continuous rainfall above the long-term rainfall, Rift Valley, Nairobi and other areas. Occasional rainfall. The reason why they did it, Madam Speaker, is so that they could actually bring in emergency services like the helicopters, the planes, and all these others, and also emergency vehicles. Lastly, on financials, this is where I think members raised, and it has been raised every other time. NEC actually needs, the ministry has requested 3.8 billion in supplementary budget, one for this year, being requested for, one, to cater for pending bills, that is forwarded in 2023-24, and settle the first charge with the financial year 2023. Number two, to meet the council's projected deficit of 2023 budget required so that they can pay examiners, administration officers, and all the rest. So that in brief is what is in the NEC, what is going on in the country. I just want to use a few minutes, Madam Speaker, to also give a status report on CBC, yes, as actually requested by the Honorable Deputy Majority Leader. Minority Leader. Madam Speaker, following the recommendation of the Presidential Working Party on education and reform on the first progress report of the December 2022, junior secondary schools were domiciled in primary schools. On basis of this recommendation, guidelines for the implementation of junior secondary schools were developed, and the guidelines were given to the Directorate of Quality Assurance and Standards, conducted an assessment of all primary schools to establish their suitability to host junior schools. In preparation for the transition, retooling of teachers, or actually capacity building of teachers, was done by the Teacher Service Commission in compliance with the transformative pedagogies.
very kindly summarize that part for CBC.
Oh, yes, I will do that.
Table the document.
Yes, yes. So it was actually, they have actually retooled the teachers in capacity building. Another thing that actually guided the ministry in setting up the JSS was the distance between schools, the age of the learners, and even the availability of teachers. Number two is curriculum implementation. Madam Speaker, the government is implementing competence. I just want to say that they have actually supplied grade 7 books. Now they're in the process of supplying grade 8 textbooks and learning materials. Number of learning areas, as per the Presidential Working Party, they have reduced this, and they are now doing designs for lower primary, grade 1 to 3, PP1, PP2, upper primary, grades 4 to 6, junior school. They are now they have reduced the learning areas from 14 to 9. Madam Speaker, on senior school, the learning areas also have been reduced to 7, and the curriculum design for senior school will be finalized once the process for junior school is concluded. Lastly, on the issue of teachers, the government has employed 56,750 teachers in the past 1 year, and they have also moved qualified staff from the former primary schools to junior schools because most of them are graduates, they have masters, and they have the ability to run those particular schools. Madam Speaker, also on financing of basic education, this is something that I want to bring to the attention of the House. In the first term of 2023, the Ministry of Education disbursed 9.3 billion, that is capitation, for schools, and they have actually given all the monies that they anticipate to disburse. However, in addition to that, Madam Speaker, special needs education schools have received 3.7 million during the first and the second term disbursement, and 1,354 learners in 119 public junior schools. Madam Speaker, to finalize, on infrastructure, the provision of adequate, appropriate, and safe infrastructure is paramount in provision of quality education. And they have actually given us how they are giving the money across through the capitation. And two, we have noted that they have also captured where the Ministry of Education, Madam Speaker, which is very important, allow me to say that, have actually engaged in partnership, and I think with this House, last week, with the advice of our Committee of Education and in consultation with the Ministry, the 3.3 billion grant we tabled and divided amongst 290 constituencies in this House, where they are supposed to construct classes where the NGCDF, which will actually be the vehicle under which the money will come, will pay a shilling for the construction of the thousands of classrooms that is going on. Madam Speaker, the wisdom of bringing that money, and I think to this particular House, is to ensure that members no longer go and queue in the Ministry of Education requesting for infrastructure funds, but instead these funds are channeled to the various constituencies so that they can actually build these particular schools. There are so many detailed information here, Madam Speaker, on those particular issues of infrastructure, and I therefore, they have also given us the kind of books they have distributed and how they have reached those particular schools. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I table this at the floor of the House, at the table of the House as directed by the Speaker. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Chairman Education, for that elaborate statement from the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education. Honorable members, I see several interventions, and I would like to give a few on both sides. I'll start with the Honorable Ochem on my right, member for Ugunja.
Honorable Madam Speaker, I'm a member for Ugenya, not Ugunja. Chairperson of the Education Committee, allow me to. The Honorable Chair, the Honorable Speaker, I belong to Ugenya, not to Ugunja. I just want that to be corrected on record, that I'm a member for Ugenya. Yes. Madam Speaker, I really want to thank the Chair.
That is not the Honorable David Ochen.
I just want to thank the Honorable Chair for a very elaborate statement, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when the Deputy Minister raised this matter, it is not for want of knowledge of what's going on. Madam Speaker, what you wanted, and I want to request, Chair, who is my friend, is assurances. Because these things you've talked about, Mr. Chairperson, we've heard about them before. This continuum, we'll move some through the air, We have make arrangements. We had this during the Honorable Magoha's time. He was a very hard-faced man. We had all these things, but even then, we've had elections being stolen. We've had exams being stolen. So can we ensure that the human intervention in the process through which exams could be stolen is removed, Mr. Speaker? Number two is the last thing he's spoken about, the disbursements of money. We all know now that the ministry is not disbursing 100% of the money. The ministry is disbursing 55%, sometimes if it goes to the highest 70%. The schools are not getting 100% of the money. And this is something that I think chairperson should deal with. We should disburse monies on time and enough money. Number three is the books. Madam Speaker, the books are important. But again, if you just tell us that the ministry tells us the books have been given, if the books are given, some schools get books in second term. For children sitting exams in third term. Some schools get the books in August for exams being done in October, November. So Speaker, so the issue is not whether these things are being done. The issue is the timeliness in which these things are being done. The issue is ensuring that we are not losing any part of the chain. Because every year, we get these assurances, Madam Speaker. But we don't end up with exams not being stolen. The last 2 years have been terrible. So we hope that chairperson who was giving this statement will ensure that the ministry, the minister, the peers concerned follows through and ensure that this year we don't have exams being stolen, Madam Speaker. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Ugenya. The Honorable Aden Dawood, Member for Wajir East. Honorable members, if you are making some clarifications, if you are seeking some clarifications, please make it a minute so that we can have several members doing so. Honorable Dawood.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the chair of the Education Committee, and I want to confirm that a lot of the things he said about the hard-to-reach areas like my constituency is actually true. Those exams have been taken by helicopters to those centers, and I wish to thank the Ministry of Education for being prepared this time. The only issue is that from those hard-to-reach areas, while exams have been taken in good time and preparations have been made, unfortunately the students are not ready to take those exams because we don't even have teachers to teach them. One wonders why we spend all that money to take exams to all those areas, but will not post teachers to those areas. I want to urge this House, and I want to ask the chairman of the Education Committee to make sure that those schools are staffed so that students from those areas can take those exams and be at the same level with the other students from the rest of Kenya. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Hope you're taking notes. The Honorable Moses Ijendi, Member for Malava.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to also congratulate the chairperson for this report. I also belong to Education Committee Vice Chair. Madam Speaker, from where I'm sitting, I'm just wondering, when Honorable Ochieng of Ugenya is asking, he wants assurance from the chairperson about these exams, and we have this report actually from the Ministry of Education, which is actually assuring us. So for us, it's only to support, because at the end of the day, these exams must be done. If they fail, then the ministry will have failed, and this will be our confirmation that they have failed as an entity. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, you recall Chair also submitted a report on exam cheating. Madam Speaker, Education Committee went around the country collecting views on exam cheating, and what came out so clearly was cheating arising from early exposure. So this process of collecting exams, every exam, is arising from the report we had after going around and collecting views. Madam Speaker, Honorable Mbui concern was particularly distance. And from this report, if members will be careful reading it, the issue of distance has actually been covered. I also want to assure Honorable Mary Massey, it's not a must that you must have a container within your sub-county. For example, there are some schools whose exams will be collected from containers nearer their other sub-counties, like could be like 5 kilometers or 1 kilometer from their schools. Madam Speaker, the other issue that was raised by Honorable Moi was the issue of cost of transport. Because his fear was the ministry does not have enough funds. We want to assure Parliament that this committee actually pushed the budget committee that we allocated enough money. Because one of the issues that was raised was the issue of cost by...
1 minute, Honorable Ijendi, yours is actually gone. Yours is gone, but you've made very good comments on behalf of your committee as a vice chair. Can I thank you and give an opportunity to the Honorable Barto, member for Moiben? Thank you very much, Vice Chair. 1 minute. And members of the committee, some of you are supporting the chair's position. If you could give that opportunity to a member who is not of your committee so that they can raise issues.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the chair of Education Committee, where I'm also a member. And Madam Speaker, I want to allay the fears the members of Parliament might be having about the preparedness of the national examinations which are about to take off. Madam Speaker, since the beginning of this 13th Parliament, I think the main issues which we have been dealing with as a committee are issues to do with exams. We have visited several parts of Kenya. We have engaged the stakeholders, and I think the level of preparedness, Madam Speaker, is good. Madam Speaker, there is a saying which the devil is always in the design. Madam Speaker, it is upon us to be very vigilant so that if there is any anomaly, we raise it. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I think the national examination process is watertight, but the devil is always in the design. Let's be vigilant. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Omboko Milemba, member for Emuhaya, 1 minute.
I must be very brief, Honorable Speaker. Number one, on capitation, which the Minister talked about, and the Honorable Chair should hear this, we are doing very badly because we are still at 46%, 53%, and others we are still at 19 and 18, whether it is tuition, operation, and operation, as per the circular that was released last. That is certainly going to affect the practicals, which we talked about yesterday. But let me congratulate the Chair, because this statement actually brings an assurance of many issues, especially the distance which we feared yesterday. On the issue of the examiners, I want to ask this Parliament, as the supplementary comes, to actually support that 3.8 billion to the Kenya National Examination Council. Because with this, then it's an assurance, if we give them this money, that the examiners for the first time should be paid at the right time. Because all that staff, Speaker, whom you had, 290,000 teachers, are never paid. This year, they were paid after 1 year. So I want to ask this House to support the 3.8 billion, which is in the supplementary budget, and let it be prioritized for payment of the teachers. Let me say on the issue of supervisors, the Ministry and the Teacher Service Commission should actually factor in the issue of transportation and allowances for the teachers who will be moving to and fro twice a day for all those number of days. I think that should be taken by the Chair and is important. I'm very brief, Speaker. And finally, on the issue of the space and the places where exams are marked, that is where the problem is, because there has been a congestion. I want to congratulate them. They have increased the number of centers. But at the same time, let them increase the payment to every script for the teachers who are marking. We shall be home and dry. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Susan Kiamba, member for Makwiny.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would also wish to put my voice to this concern. And my major concern is, while I congratulate the Chair for that very elaborate input on preparedness, I found it very difficult to see the significant difference that has actually been put forth to ensure that we don't have cheating as we had in last time. Because the only difference I saw was mainly in increased centers. And then secondly, with a capitation of 26%, anybody who has been in the schools of late, like me knows, the ed teachers and administrators are training extensively with the very basic logistics. And I think if we are expecting the exams to be done in the manner we want them to be done, it is important to understand that the learning environment that is taken care by the capitation is very low and very weak, with some desks running all over and environment of the school quite wanting. The third point I would want to put across, when Honorable Bai asked this question, it was about the centers and the issue of collecting exams twice, the morning session and the afternoon session. And the concern was, if I heard them properly, was that in the collecting twice even increase chances of cheating. I do not understand. How is picking the exam twice reducing the chances of cheating of the exams? Because to me, I think that could actually be very manipulative. When we have people picking the exams twice, it actually gives them an opportunity to collude. And mainly so, when we have examiners who have not been paid for years, what will stop them from taking a few bribes so that they can cushion their pockets as opposed to waiting? So I think we need to have some resources into this so that we can have watertight scenario in these exams. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Member for Makwiny. Honorable Chair, I hear you saying point of information, but I'll give you the last opportunity because members are raising different issues on this. The Honorable Naomi Wako, Member for Marsabit County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important discussion. I also want to congratulate the Chair for that very good report that he has tabled, that has made us to understand and also shown us that the ministry is prepared for the exams. Madam Speaker, in the past, our students have been affected in different ways because of a lot of cheating. And if those loopholes can be, they can just take care of that, we will be grateful. The other thing is about the distance that is covered in some areas, like where I come from. And especially now when it is raining, please put into consideration those areas that are quite difficult and